It's the best part of the weekend. It's a Sunday night, and we tell Sunday Scaries to take a hike. It's Watch DA Live. Happy end of your weekend, everybody. The start of a new week coming up tomorrow morning, and this is how we wrap things up. So glad you're with us. The mothership has connected. Welcome aboard. As you saw, we've got such an interesting guest tonight. Anya Zova has had 3 different lives, maybe more. Her first was as a kickboxing world champion. Her second was as a wrestler coming up in the WWE's developmental circuit, NXT. And now she's a stand-up comedian. In fact, she's had roles in Brooklyn Nine-Nine as well. So Anya Zova has a million stories. Let's talk to her about all of them coming up here in about 15 minutes from now. Also, it's a giveaway night. We love our friends at Last Dive Bar, and as you might see, I am rocking what is one of their new lines of t-shirt, if I can swing to the camera. That is Hammer's early 90s classic, Too Legit to quit. Hey. This was on the Jumbotron in the A's heydays. Okay. And so they replicated what was on the Jumbotron. How cool is this? Plus, with the box score, the line score of an A's victory. So this is their new line. I absolutely love it. They sent me a pack of these t-shirts. So tonight I'm giving away 2 legit to quit t-shirts from Last Dive Bar. How awesome. How do you get one? Well, you just got to be interactive with the show, baby. Interactive. That's what we love around here. So hit us up on the chat right there. Bada bing, bada boom. Underneath this screen. Give us some good questions for Q&DA a little bit later on. A funny comment. Something with some meat. Aidan will pick the best. Also, we're looking for exhale cocktails and or golden grams. Whatever you're doing right now as you watch the show, could be on your laptop, your tablet, your smart TV, what have you. Boom. Take a picture of that. Send it to us either on Twitter at Damon Amendo or on email. That's watchdalive@gmail.com. Also, you can hit me up on Instagram as well at Damon Amendo there. Just tag me in that. So if you want one of these, okay, these are so cool. They are so cool. Hit us up with one of these multiple ways to get a hold of us during the show. Be one with the show. Be one with the channel. Engage. And we'll give away some Last Dive Bar gear. How about that? Okay, very good. So let's start off tonight with your Furious 5. Bada boom. And a little reminder that last week, in my studio over there on my desk right now inside the DA bunker, Studio D down here, is a Furious 5, The Message record. A record. I still don't have a record player, but Aidan got this for me for my birthday a couple of weeks back. He landed it last week, which is amazing. So that's in honor of the Furious 5. Number 1, we had the Panther Stanley Cup parade, and they took over downtown Fort Lauderdale. And the story of the day was Paul Maurice, Panthers head coach, just dropping F-bombs, S-bombs, total vulgarity. It was incredible. And the crowd loved it. His team loved it. And Paul Maurice is one of the great quotes, one of the great characters in the NHL. So after all of these years, he finally hoists the Stanley Cup, and he was hysterical today. In fact, he had a T-shirt that had his actual cat on the back of it. Yeah, his house cat was on the back of his T-shirt, and he flipped around to show it to the crowd. He was off the chain today. And I just feel like this is a much better, to me, evolution of the cup or trophy or Vince Lombardi or whatever, celebrations. I think we've jumped the shark on the players being completely hammered all of the time. Like, how many times could we see the Chiefs stumble around? The Patriots were doing this. The Seahawks were doing this. Everyone's just getting lit on their parades. It's like, all right. And then there's Tom Brady stumbling. He's got to be held up too much, avocado tequila or whatever that was. So it became like, now the cliche is the players get absolutely demolished. But how about coaches going bonkers? I'm here for that. Usually hyper reserved, don't say anything that could give the media headlines or the opponent headlines. And here's Paul Maurice just cursing a blue streak. I know there were kids watching, but frankly, I would rather see a buttoned up head coach just go crazy rather than a player stumbling around half blind. So I thought that was very funny. I thought that was very interesting. If you want to check that out, I would highly encourage you to Google that or search that out on social media, because that was pretty funny. On that point, how about the ratings that this Stanley Cup Game 7 did? How about this? This was the highest rated Stanley Cup game in 5 years. In fact, this was the second most watched hockey game, if you combine the U.S. and Canada, in 20 years. Okay? So this is the second most watched hockey game. And in the last 5, Game 7 topped any NBA Finals game and any World Series game. And I just think this is a huge win for a couple of reasons. Number one, it shows that if you have drama, if you have a storyline, it doesn't matter what market size you have. And I think that's great for hockey because, look, when we actually saw it was going to be Panthers and Oilers, people were like, uh-oh, the NHL can't like this. No massive market, no original 6 team. And yet it got huge numbers. I mean, look at some of these stats here. So I think that's absolutely huge. Okay, if you combine Canada and the U.S. Now, granted, Canada is going to do that, especially with a Canadian team. But still, this is one of the most watched hockey games ever. And compared to the NBA that gets so much more general mainstream media coverage, that the NHL could beat any finals game, NBA finals game over the last 5 years, says that it's a huge splash moment for hockey to have grabbed an audience. Now, Game 7 could have been better. We didn't see Connor McDavid score. The comeback, obviously, by the Oilers would have been an amazing storyline if they would have completed it. And that's what so many people wanted to see whether Canada would hoist a cup for the first time in 30 years. But at the end of the day, it was a good game. It wasn't a blowout. And the first period was nuts. It was fantastic theater. So hockey had a moment, and I just felt like they earned it. You might have heard me talking about this on my SiriusXM show. I just felt so annoyed by the NBA playoffs that there was so little drama, and that both conference finals and the NBA finals, whether 4, 5, or 4, it was just, such a bleh that the fact that the NHL went 7 and earned those ratings, I thought spoke well to an American audience that would say, hey, I might not know these two teams. I might have no emotional connection here, but you give me some theater and I'm watching hockey, or I'm watching whatever you put on here. I thought that was really cool. I thought that was really, really cool. And finally, for Game 7, ESPN got a real desk. How about that? I mean, that desk they had up in Edmonton was such a disaster. My God, then Game 7 finally got some signage, some neon lights. Steve Levy and the rest of those guys actually looked the part. So nice job, ESPN, finally showing up with the pros, the pro equipment in Game 7. But I thought that was amazing. I mean, more people watched that game on Monday night than anybody watched an NBA Finals game or World Series game over the last 5 years. Good news for hockey. I feel like hockey's having a moment here. All right. Thirdly, tonight, the Furious 5, this Bronny James thing. Okay, let me just say this. I know that it's obvious nepotism here, that the only reason Bronny James got drafted by the Los Angeles Lakers because dad's on the team. We all know this, that nobody's hiding anything here. That being said, to melt down over this that I've seen so many people doing, especially in the media, to me is so off track. It's so laughable. First of all, to be drafted at the end of the second round in the NBA is the equivalent of being drafted at the end of the seventh round in the NFL draft. All right, so let's just happen to say Tom Brady was still playing for the Buccaneers this year, and that his son happened to be, let's just say, a 1AA, an FCS quarterback somewhere. And he wasn't very good. You know, he got a couple of starts this year. He wasn't very good, but the Buccaneers spent Mr. Irrelevant on Tom Brady's son. Would that be the end of the world? Would we say Tom Brady's holding his franchise hostage? We'd be like, it's the last pick of the draft. Now, some people will say, well, look at Brock Purdy. That could be a real pick. But it really wouldn't bother many people. I think people don't realize second-round draft picks in the NBA are flyers all of the time. They're wasted picks. Nobody cares about the second-round picks, especially end of the second round. So I just thought that the meltdown over this was so unreasonable, and it didn't match the action, the weight of the action. It's insignificant. The Lakers could have drafted 150 other people, and nobody would have said boo that they never heard of the guy. Whoever the Lakers are going to pick there, you had never heard of. So who cares that it's Bronny James? Really, honestly, who cares? Also, does LeBron want to play with his son? Clearly. But the idea that Bronny's going to get playing time just because he's on the roster, that's not going to happen if he stinks. He'll get exposed. And if he is actually serviceable, it could give us a Griffey and a Griffey Jr., Griffey Sr., Griffey Jr. on the Mariners moment, which is not worth an end of the second round pick that's a flyer anyway. And I'm glad that Adrian Wojnarowski mentioned that there's nepotism in the NBA in the front office and coaching staffs all over the place. And nobody says boo about it. I mean, Bill Belichick had his son on the staff as a defensive coordinator. Do we really think that rat-tailed kid that had the tongue going on, eyes, do we really believe that kid, that dirt stash, rat-tail kid would be the defensive coordinator of the New England Patriots under a different head coach? And don't tell me about this new staff or whatever he's doing after Belichick left. He got that first position because of his dad. I mean, nepotism happens all over the place. The best NFL announcer, arguably, is Joe Buck. How did he get the gig? His dad. So now suddenly everyone's upset about this because Bronny James was taken with a flyer pick at the end of the second round. I mean, let's wake up. This is happening everywhere. NFL teams are given to kids. Mark Davis, I mean, he eats oatmeal with his hands. He got an NFL team. I mean, it's just like suddenly Bronny James gets drafted and everybody's like, oh my God, nepotism. That should piss you off the 1,000 other times that it's happened beyond this one. My goodness. I had no problem with it because we knew it was going to happen anyway. And it didn't matter who the Lakers were going to pick at the end of the second round. Nobody would care. It's not like you're getting a good value pick. Wow, that guy could be an all-star. These guys are two-way guys anyway. So what? They would pick a guy that averaged 12 points a game instead of 4 points a game. Who cares? Okay, later on in the show, we're doing Bo. That's right, we're doing Bo Jackson because he got inducted into the Royals Hall of Fame over the weekend. So I definitely want to wax nostalgic about Bo Jackson. Right there. Bo. But before we get back to the sports, let's talk a little comedy. Let's talk a little wrestling. Let's talk a little kickboxing. My next guest has a background in all three of those things. This is amazing. Anya Zova. Let's hear it for all of them. Really excited about our next guest here because our next guest has a host of experience in both the comedy realm, the acting realm, but also the athletic realm. I know how many sports fans out there are excited to hear about somebody who could kind of play a lot of different roles. Joining us here on the show is former kickboxing champion, former NXT wrestler, and current actor and stand-up comedian Anya Zova joining us here on the show. Anya, how are you?
Hi, Dee. I'm wonderful. How are you doing this morning?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for joining us. And this is a lot of different realms of the world and of professions. You have the athletic background, the comedy background, the acting background. What is more intimidating, going up in front of a crowd and trying to make them laugh, or standing in front of a ring and having somebody try to kick you in the face?
Well, first of all, thank you for doing all the research on me. I'm happy to be here. Good questions. I think more intimidating is still being in the ring.
Yeah, I would imagine, because, I mean, that's got to be terrifying at times. But you've said before that you weren't really too scared because you had good length, right? You always had the height and the length in terms of your reach.
Yeah, I still do have that. I'm still 6 feet tall. I still have my weapons, my legs.
Yeah.
But there's something about ring. It's like, I don't want to say it's like you're risking your life, but there are accidents, it's scary. Can get knocked down, your health, it's your body, it's intimidating. Plus you have a pressure of winning. You have your coach next to you in the corner who's been training you for so long, and he put so much hope and inspiration in you. You have your team who was training with you, so you don't want to let them down. So you have this pressure on you constantly in MMA versus in comedy. It's just me, it's my jokes. I wrote them. So if I bomb, yes, it's disappointing for the audience, but I mean, you know what I mean? Other jokes work, some didn't. So it's just me who I'm letting down, not the team. So for me, MMA is still more intimidating.
You battled to become a kickboxing champion. You had a coach that really didn't want to train you because you were a female. And he said, no, we're not going to do this. And you just kept coming. 6 months, 7 months, 8 months. Finally, he had to start coaching you. You were relentless, huh?
I was. Oh my gosh, thank you so much for doing such a deep research. Yes, he was very conservative, still conservative. He is a Russian Muslim, and I guess maybe more based on his religion, he didn't want to train girls, and he was very hardcore. He's still very hardcore coach, and he didn't want to take me, and he was the best coach in town. And when I saw him, I was like, I want to train just with him because he is the toughest. He can take me where I want to be. And he was like, okay, you can come in, but I'm not going to pay attention to you. You're going to be just at the back of the room, just follow what the guys do, but I'm not going to be paying attention to you at all. And I was like, okay. And several, it took for me many, many months till he's like, okay, she's not giving up. Like, I literally ignoring her and she's coming back. So maybe there's something there. And now we have a joke. He does teach girls now, but their names has to be Anya. And it's funny because after I left Russia, another Anya came in, and he also didn't want to take her. But then he's like, well, her name is Anya too. Maybe it's a sign. So he took her. She became great. She became a coach herself.
Wow.
And now he has another girl named Anya. So here's a rule. He only takes Anyas now.
That's incredible. He's had 3 different Anyas?
He does, yeah.
Oh, my goodness. And when you were young, you didn't really set out to be a kickboxing champion. Did you do this mainly for self-defense?
Yes, because back then, I mean, now still like Eastern Europe, it's not safe. But me growing up, it wasn't safe at all. Like we used to carry as kids like those sprays. If somebody attacks you, just to spray it in their face.
Yeah.
And rape was very often for girls. So I was like, okay, my parents were like, okay, for self-defense, you should do it. But I also wanted to be like a badass woman, like I watched a bunch of spy movies.
Okay, yeah.
I was like, I want to know how to kick asses. That's what I want to do. And honestly, my body was not set for that. Like, I'm too tall. Like in MMA, I mean, I use it to my advantage, and there are plenty of MMA, not plenty, but some like Klitschko brothers, right, for boxing. They're tall, they use it to their advantage. But somehow I made it work,
Wow, that is fascinating. And so when you are competing in the kickboxing realm, you obviously have to be so driven and so relentless, like you said, just to get inside the ring. Is there a part of you that's always been that way? Like, don't tell me I can't do it, I'll do it. Because in comedy, you're going to get a lot of rejection. You're going to have to win over crowds. People will say no a lot more than they'll say yes. So have you kind of always had that mentality?
I did. I think I was very stubborn as a kid, and if somebody tells me no, I'm like, why no? You know what I mean? Like, just let me try, watch me do it. It's I always was a rebel. I always was getting in trouble with in school with teachers. I didn't like to follow the rules. It's not that I was doing something bad. It's just like I was questioning everything. Like if somebody tells me this is the right way to do it, I'm like, why? And most of the people cannot explain why. So like, this is how we do it. I'm like, yeah, but why? Tell me why. So I was this like kid that was kind of a rebellious mood constantly. And yeah, I was just like, if I want to do something, I'm going to do it. You know what I mean? It's just, and I know it's hard. Rejections are hard when acting and stand up. But deep inside, if I always know if I believe I can do it, I don't need anybody else to tell me I can. I'm just going to prove it to others, you know?
Yeah, that's a really great attitude. That's hard for a lot of people. They say, if I'm told no, I'm going to keep going. I've got self-confidence. But a lot of people, you hear no enough, or something doesn't break your way, and people go, maybe I'm not supposed to do this. Maybe the door closed. So it's a real testament to your attitude and confidence that you were able to break down so many doors.
Yeah, it's just my calling. You know what I mean? You have to do it. And I encourage everyone, because there's so many people that are lazy and it's easy to say no. People say no because it's easy to say no. But, no's, honestly, for me, they just make me stronger and sometimes it's true. Like sometimes you think like, oh, maybe this door is not right for me. And it might be this door is not right for you, but this could be another door right next to it, or you create your own door, you create your own building, and that's it,
Yeah.
you stop knocking on other doors.
Yeah, create your own building. I like that. If the door closes or doesn't open up, create a new building. Just start building a new building. So this takes us into your wrestling world. This is a little bit more than 10 years ago or so.
Mm-hmm.
You then transitioned to NXT, which was the developmental part of the WWE. And what happened there? Because at the end of it, you got injured. They let you go, and then you were at odds with the WWE. So how did that end?
Well, it ended with one phone call when I was like, I feel like maybe a few months after surgery, max a month, but I think it was like 2-3 weeks after the surgery, I got a call from Kenyon, and he's like, oh, we're letting you go. And I was like, what? It hit me really hard because I never saw an athlete being released while they recovering from the injury. But apparently it was in a contract, very small letters. I learned my lesson. With your contracts you sign, that they can let you go while you're in recovery. So my advice to everyone, just read the contracts. But I was a new immigrant. I was very trustworthy. I'm like, they seem nice. I'm just going to sign wherever. It's 30 pages contract. I'm not going to even read it. So I was heartbroken. I didn't know what depression is until that moment. Because, yes, I had my law degree in Russia. I knew I can do other things, but I was doing sports all my life, and then I'm like, okay, I'm injured. It's going to take because I knew I'm going to need this second surgery. So I'm like, it's going to take at least a year of recovery. So what do I do now? But I figured it out. And honestly, it was the biggest blessing when I look back, because if I still would be with WWE, I would not become a stand-up comedian. It's just impossible because you're constantly on the road. Even if I would want to, there is no time. You live on the road. So it's kind of turned out to be a blessing, what happened to me.
You've talked about how it was so militaristic to train, and it was so relentless to train. So do you consider your time with NXT, was that a positive experience? Was that overall kind of a negative experience?
Oh, absolutely positive. Absolutely. Even though it's really hard, professional wrestling is the hardest thing I ever done in my life. It's harder than kickboxing. It's harder than, I would say, stand-up, because you have to be not just a performer, but you have to be very smart in politics within the company. So you need to be smart and athletic and hot and constantly on and constantly give 100% of yourself. It's the hardest thing I have ever done. Plus you travel a lot. It's exhausting. And I do feel like wrestlers are underrated and they need to get paid much more for what they do, because it's really hard to entertain the people and constantly be on. So
The politics is a hard part of this because, it's run, WWE was run by Vince McMahon, and you had to be in good graces with him. And now he's in major trouble, federal investigation in him. Obviously, he's had to kind of step down. Triple H takes over. But that politics that you're talking about, how difficult is that to navigate, especially if you weren't a wrestler before you kind of just, you got into NXT, you were a kickboxing champion. So how difficult is that?
for me, I was clueless. For me, it was like I ended up in a new world where I had no idea what to do, because in MMA, you just have to be good, right? If you're a great athlete, if you perform well, it doesn't matter if main coach of the national team likes you. It doesn't matter. He can hate you. But if you win, you win. You know what I mean? If you're good, you're good. So for me, I was like, I need to do politics. I need to, and it's not even like, I feel like now I could navigate much better, because if you're good, you're good. But over there, you need to network. And I remember back in NXT, it was all about with who you hang out with. Like, oh, those people are on good terms with main people. Those people, for some reason, on the bad terms. So you need to stick with the guys. So it was, and I couldn't, in my head, I was like, why? But I like this group of people. They cool and they help me in the ring, but I cannot be hanging out with them outside of the ring, because then it's going to look bad. And I was like, in my mind, I was like, it doesn't make sense. I just want to hang out and be friends with whoever I want to be friends. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
that for me was the hardest part. And then it also was a stupid unspoken rule that if somebody gets released from NXT or WWE, you're not supposed to talk to them and be friends with them. And for me, that was like, well, I grew up where like friends become my family. Like my friends with who I grew up with, or with who I was doing MMA and kickboxing, they're like my brothers. So it doesn't matter if they get released from the national team. I'm still friends with them. But in WWE, it was the rule, like, oh, you're not supposed to be too close with them because they're out of the system now. And that, from my moral standpoint of view, I was just like, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't feel right. I just want to be friends and hang out with who I want to hang out, not because it's right for them. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Do you think because you didn't play politics and because maybe you hung out with the wrong people was the reason that they got rid of you while you were injured?
I don't think so. No. I don't think so. I kind of was like nice to everyone. I was friends with everyone. I was nice to everyone. I try not to get involved in any gossips. So I do feel like even though I didn't know how to do politics, kind of by staying away from politics, I did the right thing, because I was just like my normal self. I think I got released because financially doesn't make sense. And now as a businesswoman, when I look back, I'm like, it doesn't feel right morally to let go of an athlete when they're injured. But financially, they knew it's going to be another year of them paying me salary, but not being able to use me in any way. Yes, I could do some promos, but that's not enough. So they just did it for financial point of view. That's what I think. But we can ask them. They're going to give you probably a better answer. Maybe they're going to tell you she sucked in the ring, and that's the reason. We just waited for a good excuse to fire her. Can somebody ask them? I actually know the answer. I really want to know why they got rid of me.
Okay. We'll try to dig around a little bit.
Yeah. Please.
What's your take on Vince McMahon's investigation and the allegations against him?
I didn't follow at all. I know a little bit news from TikTok and Instagram posts, but I never had any. I think I met him maybe once or twice, so I don't have any personal experience. But I guess men in charge are always going to be men in charge. It's men's ego, and they feel they can do it, etc. But I'm going to say more generally, I feel like we cannot just blame men for doing those dirty things, because there are always second part as a woman, right? There are two people involved. So, and if a woman gives consent to certain things and then complains, like, we need to ask a woman too, like, but you were part of it. You know what I mean? You could have walked away. But some women choose not to. So I feel like I understand there's also a power game, because he's a man in charge and women has less power. So, but there's always two sides. And I feel like I think it's more complicated. We cannot just blame one person. There's always second person involved.
Mm-hmm. Your comedy is really interesting because you come at it from a different vantage point than most American comics, and you're playing in a lot of American places. Obviously, you're located in LA. You're going to be part of the comedy festival coming up in Burbank in August, but you're also performing internationally coming up in July. On July 12th, you'll be in Zagreb in Croatia. also in August, on August 29th in London. When you travel the world to perform stand-up, do you have to approach different nationalities, different crowds, different countries differently, or is humor no matter what?
Well, humor is humor no matter what. But we also, it depends where I travel. I try to do a little bit research the first day I get there, like a vibe I get or something interesting that stands out to me, because it's a good icebreaker to point out on something funny and ridiculous that's going on in this country, on that city. But what I realized, and I've been blessed to perform in 7 countries this year, 8 countries. Humor is humor. It's universal language. People laugh on the same language, so it doesn't matter. And my jokes, what I came to realize, are very international. And a lot of my jokes are based on being fish out of water and learning English. And when I perform outside of US, most of the people had to learn English like I did, so they can relate to that.
There was a Russian comic back in the 80s called Yakov Smirnov. Are you aware of him?
I love Yakov. I actually had a chance to work with him. Well, I didn't know him because he's never been famous in USSR. He became famous when he moved here.
Oh, okay.
So, and when I moved here and I started doing research on comedy, somebody recommended me to watch his clips. I was like, oh my gosh, he's a genius. I just love him. And I got a chance to work with him here in the United States. He has a theater. He still is running his shows in the theater 3 times a week, I believe. I got to watch his shows there. He's still on. He's still working. He created his own building. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's a good point.
He's like the Hollywood doors, some of them close to me. You know what? I'm going to build my own theater and people are going to come and see me. And they do come and see him 3 times a week. And it's impressive.
So that's so interesting. So he was huge here in the States, but he wasn't huge back home. Was that because in the Soviet Union, they weren't allowing American pop culture and American things like that to come into the Soviet Union back then?
I think so. I do believe they just blocked it because he, in a way, betrayed the Soviet Union, right? He left. And even now, like back then, it was stronger hate. But even now, like people who leave Russia, they're like considered be enemies. So I believe they just never promote him. They never spoke about him. Like they just pretended he doesn't exist. And yeah, that's what happened.
Do they consider you a traitor? Somebody that left?
I'm pretty sure. When I just left, even my friends were like, well, you're going to be back. And I'm like, maybe, but it doesn't feel like it right now, you know? And they were like, you can feel the vibes. They feel like I betrayed the country. Now with politics and everything's happening in Russia and Ukraine, they kind of understand why I left. And I was like, I had a feeling something bad is going to happen, you know, the way things were going forward. So now they don't think this way, most of them. But back then I was still like a betrayer.
Is that a bird? Do you have a bird, or is that just a bird out in your day?
I have to show it to you. I have 2 birds, and there's this fat squirrel. I feed. Hold on. Where is the squirrel? Where is this? Hold on. There is a tree. She's gonna.
Oh yeah, I see the squirrel. Yeah.
You see the squirrel?
Yep. I see the squirrel. Yeah. And so you have a pet bird?
I don't pet birds, but they kind of eat what left over from the squirrel. And the squirrel became kind of chunky because I feed it so much. My mom was visiting. She was like, your squirrel is fat. You need to stop feeding.
What do you feed a squirrel?
I buy at first I used to buy like human nuts, but then I found on Amazon like huge bags for squirrel food. It's a mix of different nuts. So my squirrels are great. It used to be 1, now it's 4 that coming in.
Oh, so they've told the neighborhood that go to Anya's house. That's good eating over there.
Exactly.
That's incredible. So you're feeding a whole neighborhood worth of squirrels. So they're all coming. They just keep multiplying. You
know, some girls after like their 30s, they become cat women. I became a squirrel woman.
That's too funny. How have you adjusted to living in LA? Do you like it?
I love it. Honestly, I know that people say good and bad things. For me, LA is a truly city of angels because I met so many angels in the industry that I'm working with. Nature is incredible. It has ocean and the mountains, and I love both. Yes, traffic sucks. a lot of homeless people, it's very sad to watch, but there's something about the city that just fills me up, because when you're on the road, you need this place where you can just recharge. And for me, LA became this place.
That's great to hear. I love that you've been able to transition from so many different backgrounds, because it shows such versatility. It shows such an incredible multitude of talent. So to go from kickboxing to wrestling to now stand-up, these are not things that normally people weave together. So it's really impressive to see. And your Instagram account is through the roof. You can follow Anya on Instagram at Anya_Zova. So that's Zova. And she's going to be performing in July. If you're in Croatia for a summer vacation, she's July 12th. Also August 29th in London. And then a big old comedy festival in Burbank in August. So that should be a lot of fun to be around a lot of other comics at a comedy festival.
Oh, for sure. For me, comedy festivals became my favorite thing to do. I haven't done them that much, but this year it's been doing more. I did Abu Dhabi Comedy Festival, which was amazing. And when you hang out with comedians, you just learn so much. And comedy is a truly community. And that, I think, what I love about stand-up the most, because no matter where I travel, I end up in a new country. I go to any comedy club and I feel at home, because it creates a sense of community, because we understand how difficult it is, and we're there to support each other, and we're just there for the same goal, to make people laugh. So it's truly beautiful.
Tighter bonds with the comedy people that you're around versus the athletic background that you had, wrestlers or kickboxers, a tighter community with comedy.
Actually, I think it's very similar. Like kickboxing, I had a very strong community. Like my guys who grew up with, they like my brothers. Is the same with wrestling, not so much, because I'm outside of wrestling. If I still would be a wrestler, I'm sure I will be part of this community. But once you're out, you're out. That's the thing with wrestling. I'm sure with stand-up the same. But again, no, even if I'm out, but then I come back, I'm part of the community very quick and very fast. So I feel like, from my experience, stand-up has a very strong community.
Yeah, I could see that. Well, I think that you're incredibly funny, and I think that your stand-up stuff is really, really great, which is why we reached out to you to have you on the show. So bravo. I think it's excellent. And thanks so much for joining us today. This was awesome, and hopefully we can catch up again.
Thank you so much, Jay. It's been a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. Thank you. Thank you so
You're
much.
Great.
Usually we have a little musical interlude there, but that was just a harsh break. Da 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 da. Anya Zova, everybody. How cool is she? It seems like in the comments you guys really enjoyed her. I really did as well. She's just so interesting. She has a background in such interesting things, kickboxing and NXT wrestling, and now stand-up. And imagine, I always think how scary it must be just to do stand-up. Now try to do stand-up not in your normal language, your first language. Try to learn a new language and then do stand-up and be funny in it. And then also have no background in comedy, have a background in wrestling or kickboxing, etc., and now try to be funny in a second language. I mean, that's pretty incredible. So that was awesome. Such a cool story to tell, and such a cool guest to have here on the show. Crushing it. Aidan, the Marquette Marvel, crushing it on booking, right? This is a great, great moment every week for me, because I feel like I get together with a bunch of my best friends. And I say that very seriously, because it's such an intimate thing between you and I on Sunday nights, and Aidan as well, and friends of the show. And I feel like I see all of the people that I know have been with me on the DA show, and D-aliens through and through in the chats and everything. And I think that it's amazing. And I want to thank you guys for that. And that's why I want to give away as much cool stuff as possible. Last Dive Bar is our sponsor here on Watch DA Live. They jumped on board when we were in its infancy, and we're still a young show and growing. But I mean, this was months ago when we first really started this thing. They said, we want to be part of this. And I thank them very much as well. And I feel like they're some of my closest friends after traveling out to Oakland. And they're doing these awesome Too Legit to Quit t-shirts now. And they've got all types of gear with Too Legit to Quit. This was on the Oakland Coliseum Jumbotron of the heyday of the A's, and now they got it on a T-shirt and other stuff. And so I've got a whole slew of Too Legit to Quit T-shirts that the Last Dive Bar sent me this week. And I want to give away all of these T-shirts and cool stuff, okay? Also, look at this. I got Sell Pins. How cool are these pins? They did a whole new slew of pins if you're a pin collector. You can throw that on a hat, a T-shirt, in your room somewhere, in your sports den, and your man cave, whatever it is. We got those to give away as well. So how do I give them away? Well, I give them away by getting the D-aliens that I love involved in the show. So send us pictures of what you're doing as you watch the show, maybe your backyard spread if you're cooking out, if you're having a beer, if you had an Exhale cocktail this week, if you have one right now. Also, if you want to send a comment, a question that we can read in Q&DA and go back and forth with that, we can do that. So, all that stuff, all that good stuff, I'll give away T-shirts. Hey, if you don't have anything to contribute, that's okay. You can buy your own T-shirts as well. Support Last Dive Bar. Brian and the gang over there absolutely crush it, and they've got hearts as big as the Oakland Coliseum. So you can use the code Mothership and get 15% off. All right? How about that? 15% off. Use the code Mothership. So look at all these cool pins. Look at the T-shirt. All that stuff is in there on the website, lastdivebar.com. And one of the things that I love the most that I got from these guys was my Frosty mug. And I want Aidan to throw this picture up because we had a little backyard get-together yesterday. My younger cousin's going to have a baby. And they're going to have their baby next month. They don't know what it's going to be yet gender-wise, but this is their first. And I said, they didn't want a shower. They didn't want a big to-do. I said, well, come on over. Let's celebrate. I'll cook. Let's get some of the family together and, take the pressure off you guys, and let's just celebrate. So they came over yesterday. And as I was getting ready for the day, the clouds kind of parted later in the day, so it was a really nice day. But I was getting ready, getting the deck in order, getting the food. We ended up cooking some burgers, some dogs. We had steak tips as well, and some salmon on the grill. So a fantastic spread. And I broke out my Last Dive Bar Frosty mug. And you can't quite tell there, but that was in the freezer overnight. So I pulled that thing out and I poured some beers in there, and it was incredible. It was so incredible. So look, you can get that on the Last Dive Bar website as well. Again, 15% off. How cool is that? I mean, think about it. This year is the final year that the A's are going to be playing at the Oakland Coliseum. This could be the final year we see anything at the Oakland Coliseum. Why not memorialize such a cool ballpark and all the years of the crazy Raiders stuff there, and the A's and the Bash Brothers, and all that cool stuff that comes with the history of that ballpark with that giant Frosty mug. It's just so cool for the summer. So go to lastdivebar.com, support our crew over there. They're amazing people, and use the code Mothership for 15% off. And in the meantime, I will send out more T-shirts this week, baby. I got pins, I got T-shirts, I got such cool stuff, koozies, the wristbands, all from the Last Dive Bar, all for you guys. And it is really cool when good people dovetail. And that's what this Sunday night show is all about. Good people that come together on Sunday nights to celebrate, have a cocktail, and talk a little sports and listen to some cool guests, right? So it's all about. And I got a cool story about good people from the Bab Bash from Friday night coming up here in just a few minutes, okay? I want to talk about Bo Jackson because, man, is there ever a reason not to talk about Bo Jackson? I love Bo, and I think I probably speak for a lot of sports fans of my age. I grew up in the 80s, and I'm 45 now, and this is kind of right in the wheelhouse of Bo being superhuman. And I think it's extraordinary that Bo Jackson was inducted into the Royals Hall of Fame yesterday. I think it's worthy. I think it's honored, and I think it's right, but I think it's incredible because while it feels like Bo Jackson was superhuman and Superman and did all of these exploits for so long, he basically has 4 full seasons of baseball, all of which in Kansas City. Now, he leaves the Royals and goes to the Chicago White Sox, after that horrific hip injury, and he was never the same. He also plays for the Angels at the tail end of his career. But Bo Jackson only plays baseball for 8 years, and there's only 4 full seasons. They're all in Kansas City. So, if you asked me without any knowledge of a baseball reference page in front of me right now, how many home runs Bo Jackson hit in his career, it'd be like 250, right? And he made like 3 All-Star games or 4 All-Star games, and he hit 330. No, Bo hit 109 home runs in his entire baseball career. 109. Isn't that amazing? Sorry, he hit 141, 109 with the Royals. Okay, so he only had 4 full seasons. In his career, his full career hit 250, right? He struck out a lot, 250. But with the Royals was his best seasons, but he only made 1 All-Star game, 89. So it just speaks to the brevity of his career and the magic that he created in such a short amount of time, which is why he belongs in the Royals Hall of Fame. There's 30 different individuals in the Royals Hall of Fame. So this is not like there's only 5 guys like George Brett and Willie Wilson and, Bo Jackson. So it is a wide door. But Bo did things like snap the bat over his knee, launch himself into the air to catch foul balls or fly balls rather in the outfield, snap the bat over his helmet, smash home runs, run around the bases with abandon, fire the ball in and, a cannon for an arm. He looked so splendid in those baby blue Royals uniforms of the 80s and 90s. It's just, I was always kind of taken aback by Bo at that time. That he has the hip injury and it's never quite the same. But that short, brief moment there of Bo with the Royals is so interesting. And he makes an All-Star game in 89 in baseball, hits a home run to the All-Star game. And then the following season, 1990, he makes his only Pro Bowl in the NFL. Now, think about that. Not only do you have to be good enough to play both sports, and Brian Jordan and Deion Sanders also did that, you have to be good enough to be an all-star in both. And think about how incredible that is. So for like a 24-month period, 1989 to 1990, there is nothing on earth that we see. We're seeing Shohei do an amazing thing, but it's all in the same sport. Imagine having a guy like Patrick Mahomes be an all-star shortstop in baseball. It just doesn't make any sense. So I was so happy to see him honored, and he got choked up. And Jeff Pearlman has an excellent book called Bo. I highly encourage you to buy it. I know Father's Day passed, but if you want some light reading around the pool, the beach this summer, Bo by Pearlman is really good. And it's a thorough examination of all these exploits of Bo Jackson before there was YouTube, before there was video cameras and cell phones at every game. A lot of the stuff that we track about Bo happened in high school and college when there was no footage running. There's no film of it. So it's just these incredible Paul Bunyan-esque tales. But Pearlman goes to great extent to just research every little bit about him. And Bo was not always the nicest guy to be around. Bo did not like attention. Bo had a stutter growing up. Bo did not like the media. So, and there was a lot of stuff that he didn't love about his time in Kansas City. I think it's amazing to see a man like Bo kind of come around with the wisdom and the understanding of what had happened and say, hey, it's not tragic what happened to my career. It's just a speed bump in the road. And I'm moving forward, and I'm happy that I had the career that I did. While the rest of us feel completely robbed by that hip injury. And Pearlman goes into this incredible story about how the science of the time was just really archaic about treating the hip, that if Bo Jackson suffered that injury today, he could have a career. But in 1991, he couldn't. So, I thought yesterday was a really full circle moment, and I thought it was awesome. And that Bo was so thankful and so appreciative of the fans who sometimes he was at odds with throughout his career. And really being touched by the whole thing I just thought really cool. I thought the whole thing was really cool. So there just might be a Sports Zen moment involving Bo coming up here a little bit later on in the show, okay? But a chance to talk about Bo Jackson? Hell yeah, I'll take that chance. Now, Aaron Judge, or Judge, as it were, today hit home run number 31. All right. So this is amazing. Yeah, 31 home runs, okay, in 83 games. 2 years ago, when he hit 62, he had 30 home runs. So he's 1 home run ahead of the pace at 83 games played. It doesn't mean he's going to end up at 60, 61, 62, 63. But a couple of thoughts on Aaron Judge. Number one, if he hits 60 again, he becomes the only clean player ever with multiple 60 home run seasons. Isn't that amazing? First of all, I was shocked to see that Barry Bonds had 73 home runs and never hit 50 aside from that year. He has a 73 home run season and a bunch of 40-something home runs, but never 50 or 60. Isn't that amazing? So Sosa has a couple of 60s. McGwire has a couple of 60s. Obviously, both juiced out of their brains. So Aaron Judge, Roger Maris only hit 60 once, 61. Babe Ruth only hit 60 once. So Judge would become only the first player ever, the only player ever to have clean multiple 60 home run seasons. The second part of it is, I know that there's a warming of the McGwire, Sosa, Bonds, Clemens years. People saying, you know what, those are the most exciting time in baseball history. They grew up with it. A lot of people that grew up with baseball in the 90s now becoming adults. Some of them are voters now covering baseball. And there's certainly a thawing. We just saw Barry Bonds, part of the Rickwood coverage a couple of weeks back. And I understand that. I understand that time heals wounds, and the steroid era now is becoming seen a little bit more warmly. But remember this. They stole what would be amazing as a home run race this year, and what would have been amazing 2 years ago with Aaron Judge. If that steroid era didn't happen, I'm not saying that baseball's not to blame, C-League's not to blame. There's a whole can of worms, kettle of fish to break apart here in terms of blame game. But if that didn't happen, we would have had Aaron Judge hit 62 2 years ago, and that would have been so climactic. And now we would have him on the hunt again to break his own record. So, you know, he's not going to get 73. He's not going to get 74. So it's kind of, that's what is lost there when you have artificially enhanced home run races. 98 was great, but it severely dampens what could have been other chases as well. So that's Aaron Judge. That's the story there. Also, Home Run Derby is going to change its format this year. Now, maximum of 40 pitches, okay? So you can't just keep throwing balls in, trying to hit as many out as humanly possible before time expires. A maximum of 40 pitches. I like that. I think that makes it better. Okay. The plus one here on the Furious Five. Let's talk a little Bab Bash. My cohort in the mornings on SiriusXM, Mike Babchick, had a pool party on Friday, inviting all of the listeners. Very Bob's Bar-esque. And it was very cool to have a bunch of listeners come out, and a couple of the guys from the station did as well. Adam Shine, who follows us mid-mornings on SiriusXM, Cody Decker, who's on early afternoons on SiriusXM. They both came out to the party. That was awesome. As you might imagine, there was some classic Babs moments here. I mean, number one, seeing him pee in his own yard next to the shed was something that I always dreamt I would never have to see in person, and I did see it in person. So bravo, got to experience that. Number two, the night ending with illegal fireworks and the cops coming over. Luckily, no citations, but there was a bunch of hooliganism happening with the fireworks that, you know, Babs lives in a neighborhood where, like, there's a bunch of houses smashed together on the same street. Like, when he sent up, or his friend sent up these fireworks, I mean, it's like they might as well have been 5 feet away from the second floor windows of these people. So, Aidan, if you got any pictures of this, you can throw these things up right now, because the Bab Bash was, as expected, very rough around the edges, but a lot of fun, as you might imagine. There's Chef George, who he catered it. There's a great deli in Connecticut that Chef George owns and operates. He's a longtime listener of SiriusXM. He loves the show. He had to pay off a bet with Babs, so he brought over, look at that amazing sandwich. And the food that he made was awesome. There was a porchetta, which is a slow roasted pork, in its juices and in a brine, and we put that on a hoagie roll with some peppers. That was awesome as well. That was freaking amazing. Really, truly amazing. The food was awesome, and the people were great as well. And I got to meet some people like Captain Fowl there, who came in from Austin, Texas. He flew in. That was awesome. I mean, a guy that would fly all the way in from Austin, just like Bob's Bar, having, the aliens come in from near and far. And so, I got to meet some really cool people, really cool, down-to-earth people. But one of the people I got to meet, a special dude, Randy. You see him around these parts, Randy Trask from Ohio. Randy from Ohio. Big Browns fan. Randy, the moment I stepped in the gate, first guy say, what do you need, DA? What can I get you? Hooked me up with a Modelo. Thank you, sir. Very good to see you here. Randy drove in from Northeast Ohio. Said about 6 hours he drove in. He was going to stay at a Motel 6 around there on Friday night, drive back Saturday. They said, how'd you do with the wife? He goes, probably not my best decision, but we're going to smooth it over because I had to be here. I thought, man, that is really cool. Now, he goes back to the overnight days on CBS. He listened to the DA show on the overnight days, and he said, I had to make this trip happen. And so we got to catch up. I talked to him more than anybody else at that party, and he had some really, really impactful words for me. And, we talked about the fact that I left CBS to go to SiriusXM, and it meant the world to me that many listeners made the switch with me and pay money out of their own pocket, because on CBS we were free, and on SiriusXM you got to pay a subscription fee. And I hope that it's worth it, because it means a lot to me that you would fork over cash to listen to me talk. And he just was like, just keep doing what you're doing. The show is amazing, and the Sunday night show is really, really special. And so it was really great to hear from him. And he said, hey, remember, when my local station, when you moved off overnights, I couldn't get you in the evenings or the mornings anyway. So I had to get SiriusXM to listen to you on CBS. So I just went to a different dial channel, different channel number. I was on 160, or whatever the CBS one is. I think they changed it. So now I'm on 82. Hey, you just changed dial position to me. And I was like, man, that's cool. That is really cool. So Randy was paying for the DA show before you had to pay for it. So it was just awesome. And I thought that he was, for all you guys out there that watch this Sunday night show, he was a great symbol of what it means to be part of this fraternity sorority family here, because he's got a huge heart. He has these no-bake cookies. He's like, I just want to give everybody that I know these no-bake cookies, because I want them to eat them and enjoy them and, have a good time. And he's just like, he's infatuated with no-bake cookies and like making the perfect no-bake cookie. And he sent us some at the studios. So just an incredible dude. So if you see Randy around here, he's a great dude. He's a D-alien for life. He is very symbolic of all you guys spiritually being there at the Babs Bar, at the Babs show, Babs Bash, very Bob's Bar-esque, a lot of bees. And it was a cool night, really cool night. And I couldn't get too loose because I had to drive home, but it certainly was cool to have a couple of beers and meet some cool people that listen all over the country to the show, and came out for a cool bash. And I know there's a lot of people in the comments saying, hey, we're going to get a Bob's Bar. Here's the bit. I'd love to do it. I can't force it upon the Mrazes, because, that's got to be their call. I know that Mraz would love to, but they've got weddings and babies this summer. The sisters dueling everything, weddings, babies, stuff. And the Mraz family tree can be somewhat combustible. So I'm just waiting on that. Okay. And we'll see. We'll see. But I will tell you this. This Sunday night show is here to do cool crap, to do cool stuff, to get people together. So if it's not Bob's Bar, this will be the epicenter of some listener meet and greet. I might find a Bills tailgate. I might go to an Orioles game. I might go to a college football game of the SEC. I don't know, but I'm going to bring this, what we do here, there. And we're going to party. And we're going to do it big, just like we did it in Oakland. And this will be our gathering spot to come together, because when you get good people together and you have good times, it makes good memories. And that's what we're all about around here. All right. So all good. Fingers crossed. We will get it done. I promise. All right. Time now, Babs. I should say time now after the Bab Bash, Bob's Bar, Furious 5, Golden Grams. After all this alliteration, it is time for the GG. And Aidan, our Marquette Marvel, we love alliteration around here, has a few photos I think that he wants to share with us. So let's send him up here. Check this out. Oh, this guy was awesome, man. J-Rock came down from Burlington, Vermont, made the trek, and he was such a cool dude. He's all about UVM hockey, UVM basketball. And he was teasing me a little bit because remember, Vermont beat Syracuse in 2004, I believe it was, when they were the 14 seed and Syracuse was the 3 or something like that, the TJ Swarentine game from the parking lot with Gus Johnson on the call. And he was just saying, I watch so much mid-major basketball. He's like, ESPN 3 is the greatest thing that ever happened to me. Like, I'll sit down and watch a South Alabama basketball game. I said, dude, God bless. You're the mid-major mothership. You are the embodiment of mid-major mothership. He was so cool. He's like, what, can I get you a beer? What do you want? He was helping me out, go to the cooler. He's like, we got this here, that here. This cooler has this. So J-Rock was awesome. He's a hardcore listener, and he is absolutely one of the dudes you love to have at a party. Look at that smile. How about this guy? You have Reed from Long Island, who was cool as well. Call me man of the people multiple times. Reed was fantastic. Big smile on his face. We were swapping stories about Long Island traffic and WFAN in New York and Mike and the Mad Dog and everything. So that was awesome. He was a really cool dude as well. I love meeting Reed, and just really good to put faces to names. You know, it's really cool to just meet good people that were there for a good time. I had a lot of fun. Happy to do it. And happy to find other places to get the aliens and listeners together to come together and be one. Be one. All right, so here we go. Let's do a little Q&DA. Aidan The Marquette Marvel has comments, questions, concerns, so we can give away some T-shirts, some gear. Let's give away some Last Dive Bar stuff. And oh, look at this. Look at the T-shirt that Aidan is wearing right now. It's an old school DA show cartoon head inside the mothership T-shirt. Very cool. That is vintage.
That's right. It was a gift, probably. I mean, you just talked about the CBS days. This was probably, oh my gosh, 2016, 17, 18, somewhere in that range.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, as a gift. So, but it's not about me. It's about the Q&DA.
All right.
And as I load these up here, seeing our engagement on the Anya Zova interview was really cool because my favorite comment, I think, from the actual interview, and I'm not spoiling any countdowns at all, is from Todd, who wrote, Anya didn't do enough research on DA to know how A+ his research is for his dad. So you wouldn't highlight that yourself, but I just want to highlight that because we've even just talked about this off the air, how gracious our guests are to say, oh, well, you did your research. Oh, you did your research. And so that is being added to the clip reel when she said, wow, you're really doing your deep research. So good on you.
Yeah, thank you. It's always kind of shocking to me how many people interview celebrities, athletes, what have you, and don't know anything about the guest. And so anytime you do even a little bit of research, the guest is like, wow, you really know your stuff. It's like, yeah, that's the job. We're supposed to know who we're talking to. That's why you're on the show, because you're important. And it's always very funny to me that the bar is set so low because so many hosts just have no idea who's coming on. No idea.
It is funny. And that's what we try to do. Not we, you, but just in the booking stuff as well. It's really kind of funny to see, oh yeah, like you did your good research. And Nick Callis last week was so gracious to us. And I actually saw on Instagram that Nick had his premiere special on Thursday. His billboard was all over Times Square, and he was happy to comment and say, yo, man, like, thanks for doing it. And he was so happy to be like, yeah, it's, on 800 Pound Gorilla as well. So shout out to Nick. I got a couple good ones as well from the Anya interview. Speaking of, and our good friend Craig wrote in and said, I guess Anya can't run for president because she's foreign born. She'd be better, in my opinion, than the current two choices.
Anya was really cool and such a tough cookie, right? Like you would totally trust her in any type of harsh negotiations, a tough spot, international conflict, domestic, argument. You'd be like, Anya can hold her own. Absolutely hold her own. No doubt about it. That is a woman that has been told no a couple of different times and said, I don't care what you say. The answer is yes. I'll get it done. Love that attitude.
It sounds very similar to this show. So
that's right. Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Along the similar lines, our friend Matthew Wilson checked in and asked, DA, if Vince McMahon was played in a movie, who should play him?
Oh, this is good. Now, if you can pop these up on the screen, do that so I can see them actually, and who's sending them as well. But Vince McMahon, he looks so weird. I was just researching the latest on that, and the feds they're now involved in Vince McMahon. The lawsuit is now, the sexual assault lawsuit's taken a pause so that the feds can finish the investigation. And he's so weird. He is so weird looking that it would be like, oh God. Oh, it's slipping my mind. But, Vincent Price. He looks like Vincent Price now. Now, of course, Vincent Price has passed away. But he is so weird. You would almost do like a Buscemi with a pencil-thin mustache. Like Buscemi Boardwalk Empire is like how Vince McMahon looks. Now, of course, Buscemi is very spindly and wiry, and McMahon has been on steroids for a long time. But, his face is just so bizarre now. So much work done. The cheeks are blown out, the pencil-thin mustache, the weird hair. He is just a funky-looking, weird guy, Vince McMahon. But that's a very good question. I like that one.
I found a way to put the graphics up on that. There's so many things.
Nice.
In our Watch DA Live universe behind the scenes, if you could see our system shortening out like a shortbread. But
that looks good.
I'll give you a couple more.
All right. Was Matt a winner, or are we giving Matt a t-shirt here?
I don't think Matt has won yet. So, and shameless plug, he's also a big Celtic fan. He went to the parade with me on Friday last week. So I didn't see him. But Matt, email watchdalive@gmail.com and we will get you set up, because that's one guy I want to take care of.
Okay. So how many winners do you have here? Let me know. How many comments do you have?
We have a total, if you include Matt, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Okay. First two are getting, let's see.
Let's pull this out.
Yeah, I'm gonna give Matt a t-shirt. All right. Gonna give Matt a t-shirt. I'm also giving away some pins here. We're gonna give away out of this combo 2 pins and 3 t-shirts. Okay, that's what this the 5 comments are. By the way, if they're coming from these comments, you have to make sure you reach out to Aidan, because we don't have a chance to get a hold of you when it's YouTube comments if he's pulling them up. If we have your Twitter or we have your Instagram, we can get your information. But if not, we don't have a way to get a hold of you. So if you are a winner here as a commenter, you got to reach out to me or Aidan and say, hey, I was one of the winners. And we will hook you up, okay? Got to reach out to one of us. Also, email us if you want to, but social media works as well. The email address is watchdalive@gmail.com. All right, Matt's one of the winners. What else we got here?
Exactly. Watchdalive@gmail is perfect. Last 3, just run down the road here. When we promoted the world famous Last Dive Bar mug, our friend, I shouldn't say our friend, he is our friend, and I see him checking in for one of the first few times here in the chat. Meet in the 574. I still have a mug from my 20s. It came with a long neck Budweiser and peanuts in it. I don't know how many ounces, but it's huge. It sounds like he needs a new one.
Sounds like he needs a new one. Also, is that the Popo coming for you, Aidan? I didn't know that you were on the lamb. It sounds like it's like right outside your house.
It is, and it's a give you a little peek behind the curtain here. I see that. Oh, actually, a literal peek behind the curtain. This is how you know that the show is not Watch DA, Watch DA Live. So
right, that's right. That's right. Yes.
The Popo is not in my driveway, but it's audible nonetheless.
Meet in the 574. Okay, so should we give Meet one of the one of the mugs. Is that what we should do here? He needs a new mug from Last Dive Bar.
Do you have a mug at your disposal?
Oh yeah, hang on. Pause 1 second. Let's click over to you.
All right, live TV here. Live TV, watch DA live. Meat is gonna. Oh, okay. DA is slowly coming back to the fold.
Yeah,
and he has inserted his headphones. So I'm gonna throw it back to him.
Let's check it out.
Here's the grand reveal.
The Last Dive Bar is like so cool. They're just like such amazing people. They just sent me this cool bunch of stuff. But look at this. Yes.
Wow.
Yes. Let's get Meat in the 574 updated, baby. Meat in the 574. You got yourself a mug now. How about that? Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Email watchdalive@gmail.com.
Yep.
And our last two come from good friends of the show as well. Stephen Murray, who wanted to clock in to say that Huge Freeze needs to sing a DA show theme song. I would think specifically for Watch DA Live. That's a great idea, isn't it?
Fantastic idea. I've been toying with. See, this is the best part about Watch DA Live is that all of the characters from yesteryear that have woven in and out of the radio show can live here forever now. And I've thought about how do we get Huge Freeze involved? Because I really, of course, and I'm like, here, what can we do here? How about this? Does it fit there? And I haven't found the right way to do it. And him singing a Watch DA theme song is so good. Steven, you're brilliant. Steven does amazing voice work. If any of you guys have a need for commercial spots, production stuff, if you're small business or what have you, need somebody to do some production, he is so good. And he came to the Bob's Bar shows. He's like one of the best dudes ever. He always helps me out with stingers and stuff for the radio show. He's done some amazing stuff for us. In fact, he cut something for Watch DA Live, which I'm waiting to use more frequently when it comes to football season because it's some really good stuff that he's done for us. So we're going to have a huge football show. It's going to be really badass. I'm putting all the gears in motion. But yeah, Stephen Murray, if you see him here, hit him up. He's awesome. I can also, if you want to hit me up, I can give you his email address, but he's one of the best dudes ever. And I love that idea. Stephen, let's get you a little Last Dive Bar swag pack.
Yes, sir. Congratulations, Stephen. And finally, the last one before I'll get out of here is from our good friend, Curtis. DA, this just made me chuckle in the middle of the interview, so I had to throw it up. DA, I'm pissed that my agent can't get me a similar deal as Bobby Bonilla. Also, I'm pissed that I don't have an agent. I don't have a job, Damien.
Oh, my God. Great reference, by the way, because the Bourbon Belt asked me the other day, what's your favorite drop ever? And I said, I paused and I said, I think it's I don't have a job, Damien. I think it's I don't even have a job, Damien, who was Painkiller Pat once upon a time. She said, yeah, that was a good one. Because little divulge here, but I think I might have drops back. I had to work hard on this bad boy for the last 8 months, now 9 months almost. The SiriusXM situation in terms of drops was not nearly as fluid or as smooth as CBS's was, but I finally workshopped it to get drops. So I have a drop board in front of me. At some point, I'll tell the whole story. It's like a crazy, chaotic story, but I think I finally worked it out. It's been many months in the making, but if I do, I shall bring back a couple of the old school drops. But yeah, Curtis, I don't even have an agent, Damien. Sorry, don't have the Bobby Bonilla deal. We would all love to have that. I certainly would. At some point in time, one day, I will leave my final job in radio, and I will say, all I want is 1 year's salary, the next year paid out over the next 30 years. So I will have some type of minuscule amount come to me in the mail once a year, but I will then have Bobby Bonilla DA Day. And there will be like a July 1st or a June 1st where just every year I get like 37 cents. And it'll be like, there it is. It's Bobby Bonilla DA Day. There it is. All right. Very good. Great job, everybody. Let's get you out of here on a moment of sports zen, okay? And, of course, it has to be Bo Jackson. So give me the full screen on this because with Bo going into the Royals Hall of Fame, I said, let me find a really cool Bo in Kansas City photo. And does this just look like Bo Jackson is soaring like Superman, levitating, catching a ball in the outfield, the glasses, the late 80s look, tight pants, which I always thought was such a cool look on baseball players, like in that era, because it made them look more athletic, more like superheroes. The hat falling off in the outfield. Tough for me to tell where that is, but is it possible that's Oakland? Because that's a road game. Remember, the Royals wore their home whites and their baby blues on the road. And that's let's figure that ballpark that time is 88, 89, something around there, 90. It's one of those years. So it's late 80s. It looks like it's probably a football / baseball multi-purpose stadium, maybe. I mean, now again, a lot of ballparks look like that back in the day, which is hysterical. It could have been old Memorial Stadium in Baltimore, I suppose. Could have been Arlington, maybe. There's a lot of stadiums it could be, but that might be Oakland, right? I mean, I'm getting a few people in the comments that said that's Oakland, and how kind of like symbolic and spiritual as a connection is that picture might have been. I guess, man, maybe with the yellow at the bottom, the base of that, and the green outfield cushions, it could be, but just let that wash over you. Once upon a time, kids, that was a superhero. Once upon a time, there was a guy that flew through the air, smashed baseball bats over his head, hit moonshots as home runs, and had a cannon and a howitzer of an arm. And after that, he played football. And after that, he was a Pro Bowl running back that had 1,000 yards nearly, 950 yards in 9 games. And had a commercial, Bo knows this, Bo knows that. Bo didn't know hockey, but he knew everything else. But Bo didn't know diddly. And I didn't catch the name of somebody that wrote the Tribe lyrics, but Bo knows this, Bo knows that, but Bo don't know Jack because Bo can't rap. So what do you know? The deal is the bat. No batteries included and no strings attached. So that is your moment of sports zen, ending with a little Tribe Called Quest. And that is how we're going to end tonight's show. That was a fun show. I feel very good tonight going into the Monday. No Sunday scaries because we are here as a family every Sunday night. By the way, if you like the show, please spread the word to your friends, your family that might like this show as well. We do this on Sunday nights, every Sunday night on 7 o'clock Eastern time, 4 o'clock Pacific. We have cool guests. We have a family of awesome listeners. We give away cool merchandise, and we're going to build this thing into a real cool show for football season, where this is going to be your football recap on Sundays after the games before Sunday Night Football. We're going to jam everything into this hour to go just wall-to-wall cool football stuff. So please tell your friends, tell your family. There's this really cool show. You can watch it on YouTube or Twitter, and you can watch it anytime you want on YouTube. It's always archived there. You can watch it on your phone. You can watch it on your smart TV. You can watch it on your laptop, your iPad, whatever that is. You get to just let it just wash over you. All right, play me out, Aidan. Thanks to the Marquette Marvel, Aidan Hatton, your executive producer. Thanks to the Aliens for hanging out with me. Thanks to Anya Zova for being our guest tonight for the show. We are going to do one next Sunday night for 4th of July weekend. So fear not. We're not taking off. We will have a show for you. Have a great Sunday night, everybody. I'm DA, and the mothership disconnects.